Warning, this show contains adult language. Welcome to another edition of Up and In It. I'm your host, Adrian Babashoff, and if you're new here, welcome as well. And if you're wondering what the show is about, it's entirely dedicated to improving quality of life for both people and planet through liberation and independence, moving you from surviving to thriving, living life on your own terms. This is episode 275, and it's preparations for an uncertain future. And I've been thumbing through, looking at a lot of things that people are interested in as far as on the show. And it seems like you guys really like that one, and we actually have a lot of information on this topic and a lot of things happening right now, so I thought it was very relevant to the times. Let's get into it. I'm reporting live from my F-350 7.3 liter pickup truck, and in preparations for strange, uncertain times, I'm actually heading to my farm to actually grow some more of my own food and actually design and implement some new experimentations to see how I can streamline this even further than what I have it now. So that's the kind of mood that I want to get you guys into today. And pardon that background noise. It's for me, it's the end of September, and it's time to go back to work. For those of you who follow me, you guys know that I do my mini retirements, and I only work maybe about 8 to 9 months out of the year. I've been off since, I think the end of June. And I've got to get back to work here. So unfortunately, I can't do the pretty podcast where we don't have any background noise. But yeah, why in the first place would we want to start preparing for uncertain times? Like, what's the necessity? What would be the outcome? You know, what's the motive? What's the drive here? And I think that, regardless of whether times get really weirder, I think we can admit, we can all sit down and say, this is weird. I have no idea what the fuck to do, as far as what's going to happen. All I know is I can make sense of, what are some of the things I have control of? What are some of the necessary things that I need in my life? And what are maybe some of the things that I want? And what can I do to get those, regardless of what's happening economically or with this COVID thing and all this crazy weird fiasco? And when I started thinking about this, I think we're going to do an entire show. There's a lot of things that we prepare for ourselves. It wasn't, I think, it was 2 years ago when I figured out that my business, I happened to figure this out by accident, was that I was so busy my whole entire life, getting emergency funds and making sure that me personally, that I'm fine. And I always kept in my business, because of the time I take off, I have to keep working capital. So there's an amount of money that I know I need to stockpile up, my squirrel getting its acorns. Well, you save a whole bunch more for when you restarted up, when you revamp the motor, right? You need some money, some working capital. During the COVID, that's what it was. It was 2020. When I noticed a lot of businesses going down and suffering, and a lot of the words the dialogue from people of like, man, it's really difficult. I think my business is really just hurting. We might even go down. And I looked at that and said, well, your business is an entity in and of itself. And sometimes without that business, without the flow of money, guess what? You're not going to get fed. The electricity is going to get shut off. You don't have fuel for your car and things like that. So I really opened my eyes up to, damn, I'm glad I had that money in the bank, right? Sitting there in my business for working capital. Now I start looking at a few things of why, what we should do for ourselves, even in our homes. And I talk a lot about running your life like a business. For those long-term listeners, running your life like a business helps you to streamline everything, whether times are bad or good, but it also just makes life easier. And I guess that's one of the things I look at in what we're going to talk about today, is a lot of these things we should do because we're doing them anyways, right? It's products and things we already need. We're not going to go build a cement bunker and, store a bunch of beans and rice and things like that to an extent, right? But we do, what if we started looking more at our surroundings of what we can do as a residual input, I would say, right? Meaning things like producing our own foods and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that we should consider ourselves, that we need to take care of ourselves. If you're one of the preppers out there, you want to take care of yourself, but you also need to prepare for your business. But then you also need to prepare, I think, just for your personal livelihood, which I think prepping goes into, but I think that we're missing a few things here, a lot of different things in the prepping area. So yeah, the very first one, as I said, I'm driving to my farm. I've got here on my notes is food production, right? We got supply chain shortages and things like that. And I think it's really important for people to maybe stockpile things that they're already using. For instance, for me, I think we're going to do a whole show on this one, like what exactly I've got prepped out. But like I've got like refried beans and things like that I use, staples that my family likes. We got tomato sauce, stewed tomatoes. You can make spaghetti sauce out of those. We've got a lot of dry herbs from the farm, oregano, thyme, things like that. Right now we're curing out some mint, some peppermint, and some spearmint for cooking, and also for for teas, and also for medicinal values. So we're really stacking functions on those areas. And a lot of things that I can't buy, can't grow yet, or haven't, I don't have the experience, is like things like black teas. Now, one of the things I'm also have been into is brewing fermented foods, and kombucha being one of them. In the summertime, it's really nice to get my kids off sodas and stuff like that, and I want to get them the probiotics, right? I want to get them that bacteria in their guts so they can live healthy lives. So black tea is something I can't grow, so I buy this in bulk. I think a lot of people miss, if you start looking at the prices, a lot of people miss out on these opportunities, even from such places as Amazon and things like that, where we have, where you can buy in like pounds. So I don't buy just like, I bought like tea bags, but I bought like a pound of pre-made tea bags of black tea, and that's one of the ingredients we need to make our kombucha to keep everything flowing. And on that note of producing your own food, here with the kombucha is, let's look, it's called a SCOBY. It's like this fungal mushroom thing that grows on the top. It looks like an alien. It's slimy, it looks gross to most people. I'm like, I don't give a shit, I'm into health. I'm not into how things look, right? So I wanted you guys to think of the philosophy of this. Now, if I was able to grow my own black tea, which I'm not sure is possible, if I was able and store that all up, my SCOBY in my kombucha mix just keeps doubling in size every time I make a batch. This is perpetual motion. This is perpetual production. And I want you guys to think about this in any form, fashion that you can in your lives. As far as uncertain times, what are things that we can do to model as shows, which I haven't done in a long time, is lessons from nature. So we look at what's happening with uncertainty, right? We have no idea whether supplies will be cut short. We have no idea if the economy collapses. But you know what? A SCOBY, the little mushroom to make kombucha, do you think it's preoccupied with fucking the financial situation that's going on, inflation or deflation or housing prices go? No. All it gives a shit about is if you give it a good environment with some sugar and some black tea, right? And some clean water, for it to just continually grow. And you can turn this into a business. You can start selling SCOBYs. You could start producing enough kombucha to sell to other people, right? And it's healthy. It's great for you. You can put it in your compost. There's so many things going on in this little tiny section. And I think that a lot of our lives are overlooked in business, spirituality, health, all of these things. When we observe nature, which has educated us through the sciences, such as biomimicry and things like that. There were airplanes designed after birds and fish and things like that to break the barrier of sounds and to be streamlined. There's so much that nature could teach us, and yet we just disregard it most of the time, almost all of the time. In fact, sometimes, in my opinion, we like to just pull down our pants, take a big shit with it, chop the trees down, wipe our asses, and then just leave a pile of shit with a dead tree, right? I don't know why I'm laughing at that, but I guess you got to have some comedy. But yeah, but I want you guys to look at this philosophy of what you can do, learn from the SCOBY. Maybe we should call this like the SCOBY, I don't know, Institute. There's so much that we can gather from this thing, and what can we implement into our lives. So that's when I start looking at a lot of food production and things, just like seeds. Right now at my farm, I've had stuff going to seeds in the spring, the fall, the winter, and I've got so much stuff, guys, the abundance that just keeps building and building and building. So as far as for an uncertain future, there are a lot of things that we can start doing, raising our own meats, growing our own vegetables and trees. Oh my God, trees, you plant them once And as long as there's no diseases or anything, those things just keep giving and giving and giving and producing their own soil. It's crazy. Just like the SCOBY, just like if you're fermenting kimchi or sauerkraut, or yogurt is another one. You guys can ferment yogurt, and it just keeps going on and on and on. So yeah, food, I think, to end with that one, is kind of a very important thing. I think when we look at the future of how and what we can do, like what are some of the major things that we need, and I think food definitely comes on one of them. You know, it very stands out there. My next note I have here is do DIY fix-it skills and why you should care. I think that we have a lot of obsoletism. Look at what's happening right now. There's so much that I can take this on of why you should care. Right now we have an abundance of cars sitting in parking lots, brand new cars that were built, waiting to get a simple little microchip, from as far as what my knowledge goes, from what I've gathered. And all they need is a simple chip, and then they can be put on the rack and be sold. And yet we have millions, if not, I don't know how, billions of cars just waiting. And we have a supply chain disruption, some uncertainty. And when you're a DIY person, well, let's finish up why and what's going on. Now with the used car, I know we have a lot of listeners from all over the world. This is actually the United States we're coming from Sunnyside, California, San Diego, North County. But yeah, we have an abundance of people wanting to buy used cars because people need cars. They need something that's running, and people don't know how to fix things. What if you had the knowledge, just the simple knowledge, to go and figure out? I've seen cars where all it needed was an alternator, right? People couldn't figure it out, right? Just a brand new alternator, sometimes just a starter. And these are very simple things, very simple ways to check, right, of what's going on. Your starter and things like that, once it starts clicking, if you put the battery on, you tap it with a hammer, you might be able to get the vehicle started. Alternator, your batteries will start going dead, right? There's all kinds of different ways to figure out simple little things, and it's not really that complicated. But I'm not just talking about cars. I'm talking about appliances, things like that. We're going to go through, I think, a whole DIY show coming here soon for the future for supply chain disruptions, and kind of idea of where I see the future going. But let's get a little glimpse. So we have these supply chain disruptions happening, and we have them happening on all kinds of different goods and services and things like that. So if you had the DIY skills to fix things like a little blender, a washing machine, maybe the bearings went out in the washing machine, that's why it's toggling, those front loaders. See how I've got a little bit of knowledge on all of these things, how they work. I can easily turn that into a business, right? I can easily start going where possibly you would say that most people would just go buy shit. Well, they can't buy shit. And what if a lot of people were throwing things away, right? And you were able to fix them and sell them? Because one of the things I see in the future is that we got a lot of these smart things coming, right? Smart cars, smart fucking homes, and all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of people, the majority of people, the big divide, in my opinion, right now, of the poor and the wealthy. And the poor and the beaten middle to lower class, they can't afford to buy all this new smart fucking shit. You know what they could afford is to go buy some stuff from Jenny and Bob that have been refurbished and a trustworthy mom and papa store, instead of from some place where you got to talk to a robot. I think that those days, no matter what you're into, cars, appliances, I mean anything, the list goes on, computers, that you can literally make a really good living off these things. And if not, and your shit broke down in uncertain times, you've got the goods and the know-how to actually fix these things. So I think that's kind of a little bit why we're going to make a whole show on this subject matter for sure. Okay, my next one is thoughts on owning land. And the very first thing that comes into the play here is that they're not making more of it. We have a lot of land out through the United States, I think strewn across the world, but how usable is that land, and how conducive is it to living and making money, a business, and things like that? I think what's happening now, and I think we're going to get into that today, is that the United States, at least, I don't know about the rest of the world, but what the word is on the streets is that the United States is turning into a renter's nation. So I think of why you should own land. There's a lot of different reasons. A lot of things I think are getting tougher and tougher. In fact, I know that they are. I've been watching, studying, because I've been considering buying my own land for about 2 years now. And I've placed myself in a position where I financially can do so. And I'm not sure, I'm just kind of on the fence and I'm kind of watching things. But one of the things I'm noticing is we have very large companies coming in and buying stuff, right? Buying up houses. And just the fact that they're not land, I think, and homes, they're making more homes, but more land isn't being produced. I think that the rich and this has happened before, which I believe in, like Ireland, where a lot of the wealthy lords owned the land. Anybody who wanted to farm or do anything like that, they had to actually pay rent, dues, borrow land and pay taxes and things like that. So they pretty much were trapped. All the land was owned. There was so many people that the new people had no place to buy, no place to go that wasn't already owned. And doesn't that seem like a good place and power to be, right? As far as an investor and everything. So I kind of think that that's a good reason, if that's your thing, that you do want to own land one day, which I think there's a lot of benefits to it. We should start putting some energy, and let's talk about that. Now, let's talk about why, like an ROI of useful land, of why you'd want to get the land in the first place. The very first thing is the things I've started speaking about earlier in the show was about food production and things like that, business production. For instance, for me, when I think about owning a piece of land, I run a construction business, and one of the things I look at is that I can go and rent my own house or own my own house. If it was a small piece of property, in the middle of the city, I would have to go rent me a yard space someplace to park all my gear, my dump trailer, my storage containers, a lot of excess materials and things that I start to accumulate throughout the years. I need a place to work on stuff, fix stuff, and I can't really do that if I had a small piece of property. But what if I started to incorporate usefulness, just like the whole SCOBY, the kombucha effect, where my house actually produced a place for me to lay my head, which is very interesting, by the way. Most people get a house, either rent or buy. They spend more time working for that house than they actually do awake in it, right? Think about it. You eat breakfast, drink a cup of coffee, take a big shit, jump in your car, drive to work all fucking day, sit in traffic, drive home, maybe relax, have a glass of wine or a beer, make some dinner, take a shower, spend a few hours watching TV, maybe an hour, and then, especially if you have kids and you have no life like me and you're a single parent. Oh, it's going off that track. No, you spend more time away from the house, working for the house. But what if we could turn that around to where the house actually started producing for you? Now that's what I look at would be really, really significant and why you would want to own a house. And just the fact too that when I see a lot of people who don't know about me, first time listeners here, I live tiny. I live in under 300 square foot. That's my house. And in order to brew kombucha and my own yogurts and kefirs and all of these different fucking things, seed storage and stuff that I have, it's very difficult living in a crammed space. It'd be very conducive to have a very large kitchen, a larger living area where I can actually store more seeds and goods and things like that and actually be able to work out of my home. So I think as far as food production, growing your own food and things like that, and even running a business, the ROI on a piece of land could be relatively large if it was done right. Okay, so alternatives to owning land. Well, I am just pulling up onto my alternative. This is a piece of land here that I've acquired from somebody, from some people, where I pay the water bill for all the usage. And good morning, plants and farm. How are you doing? I pay the water bill. I also I weed whack a certain area and things like that. So a lot of you have already been listening to this show for a long time. I talk a lot about this, but it's the philosophy that I like as well, is that I don't own this land. And in fact, here, let me pull over. For those of you watching this on YouTube, let me turn you guys around. See if I can flip this camera. We got a bunch of stuff. There's my trailer full of worm castings, which it rained on, and we're making more baskets. That's my giant greenhouse. And yeah, for those of you not for not watching this stuff, it's just basically a spread of land that's it even goes further behind me. It's about, I'd say, a good acre that I have to work with here. And I don't own the land. I trade, like I said, some of my time, and I pay the water bill and things like that. And that affords me to actually grow food on a large scale, which those of you who are watching this on YouTube or the visuals can see. And I don't really have to own the land. I could see this happening with somebody who wants to start a business, like, utilizing somebody else's garage by sweeping the floors every day, go at nighttime when the people are gone and work for 2-3 hours, I don't know, like with your own gear. Maybe you're welding or woodworking or something like that. You clean up your mess, but you also clean up their mess, and maybe spend a small portion of rent or something. But there's all these type of things that I think that we're going to have to start thinking about doing, especially if these uncertain times keep going the way I think that they're going and the way I'm seeing them go. So yeah, this shit's really razzling me up. I don't know what to do about all this other than the information I'm giving you now. Is let's start thinking about things like this. Let's start implementing plans and things into our lives where we can gain control and start producing a lot of our own thoughts, so our own things. So my last one I have here is thoughts on buying a home in competition with these large wealthy investors we are talking about. So we have stuff, I think it's called Blackstone, and I see this is the future of many things, not just real estate, but I see in business, foods, goods, and things like that. Is we have a company like Blackstone who's coming in and they're pretty much buying up every house that pops up. If there's a fixer-upper in town, a home, they're going to buy it. And they've got the money, the investors, and everybody to do so. So they're just snatching stuff up. So people like you and I, who we just talked about, want to get into buy land and things like that, we're in competition with these people. And in fact, the way I look at it is if we don't start thinking about things about our food, our health, our spirituality, our freedom, we are going to be stuck into companies that are doing just like Blackstone, buying up other small businesses, buying up food production facilities and manufacturing plants and things like that. And I mean, we already kind of have it. Like a little spur off of here is in the roofing industry, at least. There's such things as silicone coatings and thermoplastics and PVC roof liners. They're all manufactured from the last time I've checked, there's only 2 manufacturers, and one of them's in Canada, I think, and one of them's back east. In fact, we just had a supply chain disruption from the hurricanes that hit, and there is no PVC or there's no thermoplastic roofing materials available right now. None whatsoever, unless something has changed. But I don't even use it, so it doesn't really hurt me. But looking at that, that's a pretty crazy thing, right? And people who are in control and making these things happen, they have their finger on the trigger. They have their finger on the button, on the light switch. Turn the lights on, turn the lights off. I personally don't like that in my life, one fucking bit. So I want to fight to do everything that I can. And I think that owning land in a good enough sizable piece of land would probably be a wise thing to do. I mean, I really believe that my generation, here in our 40s, is probably becoming one of the last people that are going to be able to afford to get land. I think it's just going to get harder and harder and harder. I'm betting in the next 10 years that a lot of things are going to be pretty bought up. I think we are going to be existing in a renter's nation. But one of the scales, I don't know what to do about that. I would love to hear your comments of what you think of how to battle this. But the only thing, here's what I can think about, that I can concoct. And this goes back to DIY, and also summing up this whole entire show that I did today. In fact, the show in general, in its entirety, is we have a lot of people who don't give a shit about these type of things, right? Investors. There's no money in buying, say, the grand finale, a manufactured home on land. Now, I live in Sunnyside, San Diego, North County, and there's a lot of giant houses, like the owners that live in the land that I'm parked on right now. They have a huge, that fucking house has got to be, I'd say at least 5 bedrooms. That thing's big, man. It's probably got 2 living rooms. It has another whole house, which would be that thing's probably about, I'd say 1,000 to probably about 1,200 square feet on the same property. But I've seen these manufactured homes, and they're going ridiculously priced right now. I think the last one I saw here had 6 acres, and it had a 2-bedroom manufactured home. And the home wasn't really actually that old. It was going for around $550,000, I think it was. It's just fucking ridiculous. But if one was wanting to live in Sunnyside, North County, California, in San Diego, by the time you would stick built a house right now in these current situations, by the time you would get utilities like electricity and water and a septic tank and all the necessary things to do the permits and all that to get a piece of land to put a manufactured home on, you'd probably end up paying about the same. So I look at land like this. This is the thought that I have as far as for myself if I do invest in land. And this could be anywhere in United States, or probably anywhere in the world. Manufactured homes, just to explain, investors won't want to touch them because they claim that they're built as strong as a stick built. And I do agree with that as far as like hurricanes, tornadoes, and stuff like that. And also moisture. A lot of them are made with particle boards, but a lot of new homes are made with particle board too, which when gets wet once will expand like at least double its size and then will completely decompose into dust. That's why I do not like particle board. So yeah, a lot of these investors won't want to touch these things, and for them to go and build a house on it is just too much of an investment, too much of a hassle, when you could buy something it's already there, it's already got the skeleton, right? The roof rafters and everything. Even if they had to tear the siding, do new siding, new drywall and everything, it's already got electrical. They're ready to go. So I think that in order for people like us to compete, who are do-it-yourself people, who have been building their skills, like I've been telling you guys for years now on the show, is that someone like us could walk to this opportunity and look at what's there. Look at what's presented. It's a very tiny house, a 2-bedroom house, meaning it's not that much to maintain, not that much to heat or cool or clean. You can do a hell of a, you can start putting additions to those type of things. If you know how to build a house, now you can build your house. If you found something that had 5 acres easily and it was subdividable, you can go build yourself a house and you can go live in the house now, right? And if you do, I'll let you guys know, if you are from Sunnyside, Southern fucking California, you couldn't get a loan to buy a piece of property for you to build your own house on if with only like, $5,000, 5% down, 10% down. It's very large. I think a lot of, and do it yourself, right? The loan agencies, the lenders are going to look at that and go, and it does make sense. Where's the money going to come from? Show us the money. If you had a full-blown financial plan, I think you can get away with it. But banks would rather loan on something that's already built. In case you default on the loan, they get the house back. They can rent it out, or I'm sorry, sell it, which maybe the banks might start keeping it. But yeah, so it's very difficult. So if you're able to DIY and fix things, and think about the ROI on 5 acres of all the food you can produce and all the money of the business opportunities that you can produce. The second one so that kind of, just to finish up on that, that's kind of where I look at that investors are not going to want to touch these things. And I think that it leaves room for people like us to come in and really actually do some pretty good things. There's a lot of opportunity. The other route that you guys can have, from my limited knowledge on this, I mean, I've looked a lot, but I am nowhere near a professional real estate investor or anything like that. But the other key that I see for people like me who have like 20% down to put on a piece of property or something like that, is that if you got 20% down, you could actually get a brand new manufactured home. Now with supply chain shortages, last time I checked, I think there's a huge wait, like 6 months to a year, or something ridiculous before you even get your home. But if you're qualified to get a brand new manufactured home built for you, you're also and you're wanting to buy a piece of land, the bank's going to actually look at that, and there are certain banks that will, or lenders rather, that will look at that as long as you have 20% down, and you're also paying a professional contractor to bring that mobile home, put it on that piece of land that you want to buy, run utilities and everything. There are banks that will, or lenders, I'm sorry, that will loan on things like that, but at a minimum of 20% down. As things progress and get harder, I imagine that number's going to go up. But that's also a way to secure yourself a home with a good sizable piece of property. Now, what were we saying before is that the fuck is this show turning into a real estate show? Well, it has a lot to do with with the well-being and the uncertainty of these crazy times. As I said, they're not making a lot of land, right? And one of my predictions of what's going to happen is that there's going to be a lot of companies and a lot of wealthy people buying up all these houses, which I said. They're going to buy them in the urban environments. They're also going to buy them in the what do they call that? The suburban plots, just outside of the city. And it's the further we start heading out of the city, I think it's less likely that investors are going to purchase and say farmlands and things like that. They want to go where people want to rent, where people want to buy. And I think that the fringes, though, are also going to start being bought up. And I think that what's going to happen, okay, let's just think about it this way. All the houses that pop up, like they're happening right now in Southern California, bam, as soon as they're up, people are snatching them. They're even giving them $50,000 to $100,000 over asking price, believe it or not. So bam, and companies are buying them cash out, right? Like Blackstone. And so what's going to happen is once all these properties are bought up, a lot of people who are sitting on properties are going to look at that and go, I ain't going anywhere, right? So I'm going to hold on to this thing, and maybe they'll be the wiser and say, I need to secure something for my kids, which is what most of us look to do anyways, good parents at least. This shit's getting harder and harder, and this value is just going to go up. So they're going to hold on. So we're going to see, I believe, that it's going to play out to where companies are now going to start looking at that land that I just spoke about. They're going to go, well, there's no more houses to buy. We need to invest because the game of real estate is you always have to keep climbing. You always have to keep expanding. Without the expansion, your business will collapse, right? Most of them, unless there's something that I'm missing. You guys go ahead and tell me what's up with that. But most real estate, you got to keep trading up. You got to keep trading up to avoid. That's how the rich, the investors don't pay taxes. They're always borrowing money. They never want to really own anything, but they want to have their hands. They want to buy things. See, there's a huge difference with people. Like, they own all this land. They don't own any land. The bank owns it. They're playing the whole Veil of Money, which is a show and a subject matter in and of itself. But they're always borrowing money, and borrowed money is not taxable. That's the secret that I've learned of real estate investment, and actually how the rich actually work. So, but I do see them buying up these lands, that they don't actually own. The bank owns, the lender. And they're going to start doing a lot of building construction. They're already doing it here. They're building big townhouses and things like that. But if we start thinking of the migration, the increase in population and people, and you look at a big city, and a lot of people start moving to the suburbs, and they start building more and more apartments and stuff on the suburbs, on the outskirts, the city just keeps expanding. What does a city always do? It always right? So the sheeple are just going to keep going and consuming up land. So I would say that it would be very wise for you to, if you're in the place that you want to invest in land and you see the uses in it, to act now and think about the future, the uncertainty of this future, of how things could play out. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if exactly what I said was going to happen happens. From an investing standpoint, from looking at money, I think that's probably one of the smartest things. That's what I would do, right? I would actually purchase, if I was me right now, and I don't understand why this isn't happening, I would start buying up land like a motherfucker, because it's cheap, right? $200,000 here in Sunnyside, California. There's 10-acre lots right outside of a good-sized city. And some of these are subdividable, right? I would go and buy up all those lands and just own them. And just the fact that they would, the rise in price of what's going to happen next year, there's nothing that you absolutely have to do with land. You don't have to, over here, I think with fires and things like that, you kind of got to keep everything raked up and stuff like that. Maybe trim some trees every once in a while, but nowhere near like a house, the having to rent it out and things like that. So, yeah, I don't understand why they're not buying up land, but I do see it coming. And who knows what the fuck with all this uncertain time, guys. I mean, we should definitely start getting control, like I said, of energy production, food production, and start noticing, be like the SCOBY, right? Be like the SCOBY. Start understanding the system, like creating systematic things in your life that are just like the SCOBY, where it continues to reproduce itself, where we have perpetual production, just like seeds, right? From the garden I'm looking at right now. We have seeds that are going, and little pups and little sticks that we can cut and stick in a glass of water, and they keep growing, and we keep doing that over and over and over again. Because the future with money and real estate, goods, and all of these things, I just see it we're getting squeezed. A lot of people are very smart. A lot of these investors are squeezing everybody, and they're cashing in on it, while the rest of us are working our asses off, working 2 jobs now, maybe 3 jobs, and that's both parents in the house, working so much, so hard, and barely getting anywhere because we're investing our time into this system, this matrix that has been designed in front of us. And it's mentally, spiritually, it's degrading to our body, to our minds, to our children, to our environment. And a lot of us think that this is the only way, and it's not. It's not. We don't have to fucking eat this shit fucking sandwich that they're trying to serve up to us. I mean, a lot of us are. And it's very difficult because you look out, you go, well, what else is there? There's a fucking shit ton. I heard a comedian say, you think that Los Angeles is the world, zoom out. You know, there's other places in the world. And we have some listeners, some Dean from China visits the show every once in a while. It sends me some information. I just love hearing stories of how people live in other countries. I think that I've been in other countries such as South America and Uruguay, living there on a cattle ranch and things like that. And I saw the way people lived. And there's a lot of different ways that we can do things that we would look at that we would think is difficult. And when I look at difficult, the definition of inserting difficult into our lifestyle design that we have right now, you know, what's difficult is giving up convenience. And what's difficult is for me to wrap my head around is to go, you're going to work 2 jobs, 3 jobs, you're going to bust your ass, you're going to fill your mind and be unhealthy, no vitamin D because you never see fucking sun, you're sitting in a fucking cubicle and you're going to work your ass off for the man and say because shit's too hard, you're going to be unhealthy, unhappy for conveniences? This just doesn't make fucking sense. And cancer's on the rise, depression's on the rise, all of these different things. And very few people are looking at what are the alternatives. And I think that it's difficult, though. I want to hand it to some of you people out there, is that the systems have been designed so perfect to make you think, to fool you into thinking that this is all it is, right? Now, I do agree that in our systems right now, money is pretty much almost everything. It's what gets us our food. It's what pays the rent, keeps things rolling. So we got to keep making money no matter what. Unless you're going to get a horse and breed it for transportation. When it dies, you got another one behind it. You know, gather your own seed and maybe build a windmill. But even if you build a windmill, you're going to have to buy some tin, right? I don't know, guys. I'm going off on a rant, I guess. But, dude, I just want to say to all my friends, I consider a lot of you people my family. And I would love to meet and hear from each one of you guys. Guys, sometimes I look at my life and I say, you know what? This is absolutely awesome because I am living proof that we don't have to eat the fucking shit sandwich. And I've been developing things that are actually fucking working financially, spiritually, health, growing my own food, preparations and time and leisure and fucking freedom is what I look at. My freedom. I'm at my fucking farm by choice. It's Monday morning for me. I get to do whatever the fuck I want, however the fuck I want. Yes, I have to pay taxes and things like that. But what excites me too is that there's other people out there doing the fucking same. And I love talking to people because you learn so fucking much. Even people who aren't doing the same, who have perspectives. Listen to their perspectives. That's the most powerful thing that we can do as a group. And that's really, I look at the future of this show as whatever little bit of us people out there who still have the balls and the guts and the fucking fire inside of ourselves to continue on fighting for our freedom and actually doing things instead of talking about them and living it instead of fucking YouTubing about it, you know, or Instagramming, trying to show off like a fucking model or something, you know, instead of faking it, actually living it, right? For those of us that are out there, to maybe group up one day, at least on the internet, from, you know, I know we have people interested from all over the world and share ideas and things like that, so we can build a good future for ourselves. And as I said, the most powerful thing is a group of a number of people who are interested in these things, who start to create a dialogue on all this subject matter and start to brainstorm. That's one of the most dangerous fucking things that we have on this earth right now for the controlling powers that are out there. Is people like us who sit down and start to concoct and start to observe what's going on. As I like to say, don't be scared of the monster and don't ever fight the monster. Observe the monster. Watch its environment. Watch its patterns and the things that it does, the components of its engine, how this thing was manufactured, or how this thing moves, and how much power it has on things, and how we can learn actually from this and say, what if we were able to turn that around and make this into a positive? And look at the perpetuality of this thing. It's not going away. How can I design just the perpetuality of itself? That is a lesson just like the SCOBY lesson. Like, wow, I want to build something that will infect for life positivity, healthy living, good things for the environment, for like the forest I see on my right side. Think for my frogs in my garden, for the people, for my children, for myself, for my fucking brain when I die to be happy and to look and have no regrets. And only that it's selfishness that I wish I just could have done even more, right? Life's pretty fucking good, guys. Life could be free. We're just fooled, and we need to get the fuck out of that shit. And we need to prepare ourselves for this coming future, because I don't see good shit fucking happening, and I hope that there is. But regardless, as I said, even if the shit doesn't hit the fan, we should start implementing things into our lives that that we need, that we can utilize, things that we can start turning into perpetualism. If that's even a word. Look at the big brain on me. But we need to fucking start working on these type of things so that we can just live better lives no matter what. Because it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do for ourselves, our minds, our children, the planet, the frogs in my garden, things like that. So guys, that's the show, and I hope I've inspired you guys. If you have, you know what to do. Everything's in the show notes below. So go out there and have yourself a near-life experience. Oh, for those of you who haven't hung up yet, this is my last week, man. We're going to be doing full-blown work commutes, so the shows may be shorter, down to 20 minutes as they were before. Let me know how you guys like all that. If you want longer shows, to comment, let me know. But yeah, my deadline to go back to work is October 1st. So mini retirement is 7 days away from being, I don't even know what fucking date it is. It's about, oh shit, it's September 27th. Yeah, this is my last week. I got to get to work. So guys, I love you guys. I want the best life for you guys. I want you guys to know that there's something different, and let's work on this shit together. So go out there and have yourself a near-life experience. Don't lose your muchness. Carry on the fire. Human up. Live it, love it, own it, and bone the fucking shit out of it, my friends.